Nail or beauty school was just the beginning, right? What on earth do you do now? Welcome to the Salon Success podcast with Monaco Nail Academy. Our topics stretch beyond nails and into all things salon related, business, marketing, and social media, and at the very least hits you with real, honest stories about our experiences. This isn't school, this is real life, real business, and really freaking hard work. Before we get started, wherever you are, thumbs up, tag a friend in the comments, or hit that share button and support small business. Hey guys, Penny here from Monaco Nail Academy, and today I'm joined by Mel.
Hi.
And we've got Kaylee and Moose here, who you know from last week.
Hey.
And we are going to be doing a theory episode. So if you're a regular listener, you know we started this a few weeks ago. What we're trying to do is create podcast episodes that complement the Theory of Nails course by taking the information in what us creatives would call the boring module and having a chat about it and making it a little bit more digestible. So we're going to be talking about the thrilling topic of sanitization and safety today, but trying to do so with tangents and silly stories and making it a bit more interesting. Before we get stuck into that topic, let's revisit last week. Mel, hit us with what we were up to.
Last week we recapped on Summit 2025. Bam, bam, bam. And what we all got out of it and how fun it was, and our favorite parts and everything. So it was cool to hear from like Penny's side as the organizer, my side as a mentor, and then the other two as like participants. So and then different again, Moose being a returnee and Kaylee being a first time. So it was super cool actually.
And we actually never in the episode said how to join Summit next year. So if anyone wants to register for Summit 2026, monaco.ac.nz/course/monaco-summit-2026. So from super fun social and learning, but like super fun summit through to where we all started with the Theory of Nails, let's get stuck into sanitization and safety with the most amount of fun that we can possibly try and force into it. So we're basically going to work through the sanitization and safety section of theory and just have chats about it. So one of the first things that is like discussed in the module is that sanitization actually doesn't mean shit.
Sanitization is like dusting the crumbs off your hand. That's about as much like you eat a pie and you go like that. Sweet, your hands are sanitized. Like
it's just the visible debris being removed. So when people are like, we have really strict sanitization processes, it's like, okay, so you dust things.
So you wipe your hands on your clothes afterwards. Like that's literally all it could mean. Like
so sanitization has to be paired with disinfection. So when we're kind of poo-pooing sanitization, it's because actually it's only the first step of doing stuff. And so that is like the actual, you can't disinfect if you haven't sanitized, because if you just spray disinfectant on a bunch of dust and debris, you're just disinfecting the dust and debris. So you have to sanitize. You have to dust it off or prep and remove visible debris from the thing you're going to disinfect, but it's a two-part thing for sure.
So step one is no good without step two, right? And step two doesn't work without step one. So even though I'm like, oh, you're just dusting your hands off, you can do that as long as you disinfect your hands afterwards. It's a two-step thing. Without it, it's hopeless.
What if the client brings their own tools?
So if a client comes to you and goes, oh, I've got my own tools from wherever that I brought at the pharmacy, can we use these? Like, what would your instinct tell you to do? Do you go, yeah, sure? Or what do you think, Moose? If that happened to you, what would be your like instinct? What would you do?
At the first thing, I'd kind of be a little bit confused and think like, why? Yeah, I definitely want to make sure that I sanitized and disinfected them myself before I use them. But I mean, I would probably prefer to just use my tools because I know like everything that I do with them.
So then it just becomes like a bit of a like knowledge for them, right? Like show them how you sanitize and disinfect, and that they can trust that your tools are clean. Like they're bringing their own because they've probably had a bad experience somewhere. So then they're like, well, I'm just going to bring my own because I know that they're clean. But do they do they fully understand like the sanitize disinfection step? So then it's a chance for you to impart your knowledge on them and build that trust, right?
Yeah, totally. I think it's really helpful to be quite open about your sanitization and disinfection procedures. Like I try and talk about it even on my social media sometimes because I think firstly it's important. It's a like reminder for me to make sure I'm always kind of on top of it. And I think it is really like helpful and reassuring for clients to know that you've actually got a process that you do every time. And it's not kind of just like they just have to trust some random thing happening that they don't really have a full understanding of.
The only time I've had people ask to use their own files is if they've had like a fungal infection or something that they got from obviously somewhere else. And then they have like sorted that, treated it, and now they just don't trust anybody. But like the thing is, like, for example, one of the things that we teach is not to store stuff in like an unbreathable container. So, like, you want to be storing buffers and files in a container that either has like air holes, which you can get pretty like I got mine off AliExpress, or even like you can store them in like a paper envelope or stuff like that, like something that's breathable, because otherwise, if there's any moisture left at all, that can breed bacteria. And a client who's got their own tools or files and buffers, they're not going to know to do that. I mean, they might, but like chances are, I know I thought before studying that if you had it in an airtight container, that would mean nothing can touch it. So that would be the safest thing. And that's like just sort of the case of you don't know what you don't know, because how many clients, that's only one example of the way that them having their own tools could actually be compromising the sanitization and safety.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even I see sometimes even other nail techs won't have like a full knowledge of both the steps. Um, I've even seen people who are trying to disinfect with like 100% isopropyl alcohol instead of like 70 or 80%.
Okay, yes, this is one of my favorite facts. Tell us why not.
So basically, the alcohol is what kills the microorganisms when you put it on your tools. Um, and you would think, oh, higher percentage of alcohol will kill more microorganisms, but it actually doesn't because alcohol evaporates faster than water. So the concentration of the alcohol is brought down a little bit to around 70 to 80%. And the reason for that is because then it actually evaporates slower. So you have more contact time where the alcohol can be killing the microorganisms. I think that's interesting.
I think it's so interesting. Like,
And a lot of people like understand it or don't even know about it.
Kaylee's just looking at us like we're crazy at the moment.
Nah, I also totally think it's interesting. I just feel like you guys are carrying the conversation beautifully.
I think as well what's interesting is because of that contact time thing. And actually, so we have a group chat for people that are still working through theory, just for people that might learn better by having conversations instead of doing it by themselves. And literally yesterday, there was a conversation about contact time in that chat where one of the girls was like, wait, is that why you're supposed to leave shower cleaner on the wall for like 5 minutes before you wipe it? And I was like, yes, that is exactly an applied use of contact time. And she was like, oh my God, they should make that like clearer that that's important, because she's never done that. She's always sprayed it and then wiped it straight away. But what I think is really interesting is that if it does evaporate too quickly, all it did was freeze the cell wall of the bacteria, not kill it. So like the bacteria, in very layman's terms, any real biologist is going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, Penny. But like in layman's terms, the bacteria just has a little nap and then it wakes up from the ice age and goes back to crawling around causing havoc.
I always think the same thing as well when you're washing your hands, is why you're supposed to rub your hands for 30 odd seconds before you actually rinse them, the soap off of them.
Yeah. You got to break down that cell wall. So you guys might not even know this. I don't even know if Penny knows this, but I did my degree in science and microbiology. So all this like bug stuff is like, I love it. So yeah, that's what you guys are talking about, breaking down the cell wall. And when they have a nap, yeah, they just lie dormant and then they when the conditions become right, they come back to life. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I feel so validated by a real scientist telling me that my silly analogy was correct.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've used it and practiced it, but
No. I was validated by a real scientist.
yeah, real.
Don't take that away from me.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of different types of tools that we have to treat differently. So who can tell me the difference between non-porous and porous tools and how it impacts us?
Ooh. So, non-porous tools are tools that like don't have a a surface that can absorb bacteria. Is that how you would say that?
Yeah, totally.
And then porous tools will be more absorbent to bacteria and etc. So porous tools more often than not are like single-use tools, like single-use buffers or orange sticks or what else is there? Masks, gloves. And then non-porous tools will be like your cuticle pushers, your files that you can disinfect, nippers, anything like that.
Basically, if you think that if you imagine putting something in a bucket of water for a month, if you think that at the end of that month you could take it out relatively unscathed, it's probably non-porous. And if you think you could take it out and it would be disintegrated, it's probably porous. Because like if you apply that to like a nail wipe, like a lint-free nail wipe, imagine leaving that in water for a month. It's probably going to start to like separate and go apart. Like leaving a file or a buffer in a bucket of water for a month, like no way you can use that again. But if you take like a cuticle pusher, it'll probably be a bit rusty or well, it won't, because I think you need oxygen for rust, but like it probably won't be perfect, but it would be usable.
And porous tools can be cleaned, right?
Yeah.
But not as well as the non-porous tools.
Yeah, well, and especially if they come into contact with any blood or bodily fluids, they're out the gate, fired, straight to the bin.
And then I guess some things are just single use anyway.
Yeah, like single use would be like a nail wipe. Like you're never supposed to like use a nail wipe to clean off a nail and then let it dry and use it again on the nail. No, thank you. But yeah, no, you've definitely got single use like the nail wipes, paper towels, most toe separators, but there's heaps of silicone ones now that are disinfectable. But the old style, like foamy toe separators, no thank you. Sanding bands for e-files, and then some files and buffers. Like the Starlex ones are purposely disposable. They wouldn't really survive being disinfected and sanitized more than a couple of times. So, but that's what they're designed for. Whereas a lot of other buffers and files have plastic centers that makes them more durable to disinfection, so they can be reused. But yeah, so those are all like porous because they would all not be very usable after a month in a bucket of water. But some, I don't know. I think the single-use ones are pretty common sense, but maybe not. Hey team, Penny from the future here, interrupting to tell you about something super cool. If you're an aspiring nail tech ready to take the first step towards your dream career, our free 5-day Nail Tech Launchpad is here to help you decide if this is the right path for you. 5 videos over 5 days, giving you a taste of what it's like to be a nail technician, an overview of the basics, and insight into whether this career fits your lifestyle and budget. It's totally free, can be done in your own time with less than a 2-hour total commitment, and it starts on Monday. Sign up today and start your journey to becoming a nail tech at www.monaco.ac.nz/launchpad.
Okay, so now we've kind of determined what's porous and what's non-porous. Let's talk about how we then sanitize and disinfect the different categories. So porous ones, so buffers, nail files, cotton towels and stuff like that. Obviously lint wipes, stuff like that. You can't sanitize, disinfect that, so it goes in the rubbish bin. Yeah, single use. But for those items that we do want to clean them, our first step of our two-step process is sanitize. So you would just want to get your plastic manicure brush, give them a good old scrub, remove any visible debris, surface dust or debris. So I used to scrub mine in just a little tub or a sink of hot soapy water and just scrub, 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 scrub. Same as like your files, your buffers, anything you want to disinfect, scrub, 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 and clean it in hot soapy water. And then your next step is to disinfect. So there's different things you can use to disinfect, but you want to spray it with an approved disinfectant until the surface is visibly wet. So it needs to stay wet for 5 minutes. So it's not just like a spritz. It's like, I used to do mine so they were like dripping, like, yeah, you want it to be able to have enough wetness on there that it stays wet for 5 minutes, because that's what's going to break through those bacteria cells and kill it and get rid of it, yeah?
Pop quiz for Moose and Kaylee. What are the approved good enough disinfection solutions?
Oh, so we've got like hospital grade disinfectants. So when we say hospital grade disinfectants, though, that is just like the name for them, right? There's not like subcategories like of hospital disinfectants that I could call it.
Not so much, but when we say hospital grade, to be used in a hospital, they have to meet certain criteria. So a quote-unquote hospital grade disinfectant should be bactericidal, fungicidal, and virucidal. Some disinfectants are registered for hospital use, but then they don't say hospital on the label. So it's not that you're looking for something that says like it is hospital grade, but you just are looking for something that says that it is effective against specific like bacteria. So I can't pronounce them, but we do have them in the theory module. But it's Salmonella's official name and Staphylococcus's official name and Pseudomonas's official name. But as long as you're looking for like the trigger words of Salmonella, Staphylococcus, and Pseudomonas and claims around bacteria, fungus, and viruses, that should be something that is hospital grade.
Right, that makes sense. And then yeah, so aside from that, you've got your 10% bleach solution, which is 1 part bleach and 9 parts of water. Or you could use your isopropyl alcohol solution, which is like the same sort of idea, but you're going 70-90. So that's 70-90% iso. Or ethyl alcohol, which is the same solution mixed, 70-90%.
Yeah. And side note, if you are mixing your own, so if you're choosing not to buy a hospital grade pre-mixed disinfectant, then you need to make it every day, because if you are doing that dilution, so say for example you say like, okay, well, I'm going to save money by not buying a hospital grade disinfectant, I'm instead going to get my own isopropyl alcohol and dilute it. It actually is only effective for a day, so you're not necessarily saving money, because the like normal water out of the tap will have like microbiomes and stuff that can make the active ingredients in the disinfectant ineffective over time, and then it doesn't work the same way. So it's not always the most cost-effective way to do to get disinfectant. I personally just use a hospital grade disinfectant, and then I know it's safe.
That's interesting to know about the tap water, because I had always kind of wondered why it was different between pre-mixed and like DIY mix, I guess. So that's kind of interesting to know.
Yeah, it was another thing that came up in the theory chat yesterday. Like, and so someone was like, wait, like, why would it not work if disinfectant is supposed to kill the bugs? Then if there's any bugs in the water, shouldn't they be dead? Like, that's a pretty valid, but like that disinfectant that is going into the water or having water added to it is only working while the ingredients are active and stable. So the second it's mixed, the active ingredients start to break down. And so that's why, like, for today, it'll work. But tomorrow, it won't work to the same effectiveness that it would have worked today.
Yeah, that's the difference, I think. The like level of its effectiveness is what you're trying to get it to be like at its peak effectiveness, right? And by leaving it, it's starting to lose that. Yeah, and when they make the hospital grade, they're 100% using distilled water that they've put through their systems to get all those bugs out. So they've put it through multiple filters. Where tap water, like, it's got everything in it. Like, your tap water is surface water, right? It's runoff from your roof, the farm next door, whatever. So E. coli, salmonella, like campylobacter, like there's so much like fecal things in your water. Like, ugh, when you dive into the science thing, there's so many things that you will not eat or touch. Because you know what's in there. There's coliform, like, coliform comes from like the intestines of animals. Like, ugh. Anyway, this is why you don't use tap water.
I'm so glad it's not breakfast time.
Yeah. So sorry if you're eating right now, but that's why. So yeah, anyway.
And the thing as well is like that company making a disinfectant with their distilled water, because you might say like, oh, but what if I get distilled water? Okay, but that company who is responsible for supplying hospitals with disinfectant have made their distilled fully mixed product, and then they have lab tested it to make sure it still works. So unless you have a lab, you still are not being as safe as that pre-mixed product.
Yeah, so they've played around, like we say with the curing of gel polish. They've diluted their dilution and then they've made it stronger and they've found the best mix. So they would have put their mix onto a petri plate and lots of bacteria would have grown. So then they know, okay, that's not very good. And then opposite, they've played around with it, same as with the curing times, to find the happy medium. So you can trust a pre-mixed one. A really common one is the ViraClean, which Monaco sells. It's easy. You know what you're getting. You know how to use it. And it has an expiry date. And yeah, there's no pre-mixing. You just go hard, use it. And it's pretty easy to access. And you can trust that then you are doing the best for your clients and your space. And yeah, it also comes in wipes as well that you can use on your non-porous ones. So you can just grab a wipe out, wipe your desk, your lamp, your cuticle pushers, all that sort of stuff. So...
And like you can get the spray bottle that we sell for our students to use, but you can also from some of the like cleaning suppliers get big 5 liter like jugs of it. So it can become more cost effective once you're using it quite often.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I learned this lesson because I brought a big 5 liter one and then I used about a quarter of it before it expired. So totally just buy what's good for you. And yeah, I was using it for a little while before I realized it had expired. It wasn't too long, but yeah, don't rush out and buy a 5 liter thing if you're only doing a client a week type of thing. But yeah, there's definitely good options out there, and that's the most sort of trusted one that I found. Another place you can look is another crossover is like dental supply places will quite often sell really good disinfection products. So yeah, do your research and find out, but a good disinfectant is totally like a must-have before you start seeing clients for sure.
And I think now is a great time to address the difference between US and New Zealand standards, because we have quite a few US listeners and I can hear them typing now, getting ready to comment and be like, that is disgusting, that's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so in the US, all tools must be completely immersed in disinfectant for 10 minutes after sanitization. And complete immersion means every single part, including the handle. Plus, files and buffers are generally single use. And the idea that we might reuse something is out the gate to a lot of like US and other countries, but like US techs. In New Zealand, get ready, Aussies, get ready, Americans, to be disgusted. Our nail industry is completely unregulated. There are no national standards. The Auckland City Council has a bylaw, but it is still so much less strict than US regulations, and it took a bunch of my peers so freaking long to fight to just get that bylaw. Like, the nail techs want regulation. We don't want the cowboys coming in and ruining the reputation of our industry. We want it regulated because we know that we are working to high standards. But here, spray disinfection is completely accepted and like a better option than nothing. And yes, could we do US standards? Absolutely. However, At the moment, at the time of this recording, there aren't very many options for cost-effective single-use files and buffers. Generally, a good quality file or buffer is around sometimes 3, but up to like 7 New Zealand dollars. And we can't factor in, when you've got multiple files and buffers you need to use for one person, having to have that every single time brand new. The disposable and single-use options are just starting to trickle into our market. So bear with us when we're discussing what is acceptable for the New Zealand market and the Auckland City Council bylaws, and we're trying to teach best possible practice all throughout our theory module. We're saying, like, if you can afford to do chuck out your files every single time, do it. Like, there is no such thing as too safe. But you would have to be a very high-end salon to factor in the current average cost of files and buffers in New Zealand as a single-use part of your overall service cost. So at the moment, we're doing the best with what we've got in terms of how accessible, cost-effective files and buffers are, what our regulations are, and like trying to find a middle ground where we feel like we're working safely but also with sustainable businesses. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Every sort of reel you see where people are disinfecting and reusing things, there's always comments like, I would never go somewhere that does that. But yeah, it's very different here, and to reuse your porous things is totally fine as long as you are following the proper techniques. So I know there's some here as well that do the immersion technique. So you don't spray them, you immerse them. Like a lot of barbers and stuff use it. Is it called Barbicide? Is that what it's called? Yeah. So I've never personally dealt with it, but it's just another method of, and again, their scientists would have tested it and found that Barbicide works best if it's like immersed in the product. With VeriClean, they've tested it, and as long as it stays wet, then it's all right. So just follow the instructions of your chosen product. Have you used the immersible ones, Moose? I just see you nodding your head.
Yeah, so I've recently switched to just doing immersion. I used to do usually spray, but some immersion. But I think the main reason I did it was just for like my own peace of mind, really. Just so that I know what I've like done to try and keep my tools safe. Yeah, and it's worked pretty well so far.
Nice. How about you, Kaylee? What's your sort of plan when you get to this point of taking clients and stuff? What's your plan in regards to disinfectant and?
So the plan for once my clientele starts picking up, ideally I like the Barbicide approach. I like as well knowing that other people from other countries who don't know much about the New Zealand regulations can see that and go like, okay, cool, I can trust this person. But until then, while I'm still on like lower clientele per week, I've been using the spray method, and that's been working really well for me.
One thing that I had like a question about, I guess, was like how do you set up your disinfection kind of area? Because when I was first trying to set up my like salon space, I was kind of looking everywhere. I was just like trying to find photos of people's disinfection and sanitization like setup. And I couldn't really find that many, but it was quite useful for figuring out for myself like how I was going to set things up to make it so the easiest thing to do was to do a full sanitization and disinfection process. So I'm wondering how people kind of set that up.
Nice. I think Penny and I are similar in this, where we had our, what do you call it? Not airtight. What's the word for not airtight?
Breathable.
We had our breathable containers. So in my container, I would have like file, a buffer, a cuticle pusher, and a brush. And I would have a stack of ones that I knew were disinfected and ready to go. So when a client came, I would grab the box, take it out in front of them, put it on the little tray on the desk, do the service. At the end of the service, I would throw everything back in that container and then chuck it into my washing basket, where also like hand towels and stuff would go. And then at the end of the day, I would bring all those containers into the bathroom and scrub them in the hot soapy water, take them back out into the cabin or office. So how I had it set up was I just had the top of a cubby shelf, you know, those with the little squares. And I would just lay down a clean hand towel, and I just had like a little metal, it was like a little stand almost that I could lean the files on so that they weren't flat on the hand towel. I don't know if that's right, but that to me it just allowed a little more airflow around the files and stuff. And then I would just spray them so they were like wet and just leave them there to dry. And then usually overnight, because by the time you finish, wash everything, go back in, and you just leave it for the day. And then in the morning, I would go back in, pack them in back into the containers, which I would also wash and disinfect as well, and leave them to dry. Pack it all back into containers, and then put it with the clean ones ready to go. So I just had it, so I had a cubby shelf. All my supplies were on the cubby shelf. Then I had my qualification on top of the shelf, and then I would just put a clean hand towel down, disinfect, and do everything on there. So one, it's in plain view of people that do come in, they can see it, and all the products would just be below in the cubby. So I never had it like closed away. I always wanted it to be in view of the clients, but also your disinfectant needs to be stored like out of sunlight, stuff like that. So the cubby shelf worked well for that, but I never really had like a fancy setup or anything. It was just on top of the shelf, and when I would pack them away the next morning, I would just throw that hand towel into the washing basket and rinse and repeat pretty much. So I never had like a big setup or anything. It was just there, but it worked well.
Mine's pretty similar. So I have the same containers that Mel's talking about, and if I do a pedicure, everything gets so after I finish a service, everything gets brushed off with the manicure brush immediately. So I do a hot towel at the end of the service, so it gets brushed over that towel, and that towel goes straight into the wash. Like I've already used the towel on the client and it's sat there, so I'm like trying to keep dust to a minimum and cross-contamination to a minimum by keeping it on the towel. That goes into the hamper. And then if I've just done a pedicure, I spray everything immediately, but then no matter what, everything goes into a dirty pile. So for me, spraying the pedicure stuff immediately is just because I'm paranoid, and why not do it twice? And I guess I could do it twice for manicure stuff too, but it's just not the habit that I have. Everything goes into a dirty pile, and then same thing as Mel, at the end of the day, I do all my sanitization and disinfection at once. And then for me, it gets laid out on, you know, what are they called? Cooling racks for baking that are like full of holes, the mesh racks. I put a paper towel down, and then all the files and buffers on the paper towel, and then another paper towel over the top just to stop anything landing on them. And same thing as Mel, dried overnight and then put back into their individual containers. And then probably once a month, I get brand new files and buffers, which it depends, but I kind of have the right number of containers in rotation that it works roughly, like it works pretty well, that monthly the whole shebang gets redone.
Yeah, and it works perfectly if your client does want an individual pack. It's really easy to keep it together, and then you just have to make sure that you wash and disinfect them separately. Because a couple of times I got caught out where I would just be the end of the day and I would just tip them all into the sink. Then I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know which one is theirs. So then I would just have to, all those ones would just go into the general population, and I would just have to remake them a brand new one. So if you are going to do the individual things, just be careful not to tip them all in together.
Because that's a pretty good compromise for like finding a middle ground between New Zealand regulations and stricter international regulations, is having individual client packs where you can have like someone's name on the container. Like you do exactly what Mel and I are talking about, but with a named container and everything kept separately. Just means that even though we might not be doing 10-minute immersion and single-use files, we're also cleaning because someone can pass stuff on to themselves, but also like not allowing the possibility of contamination between clients. It's like a good middle ground.
Yeah. And my one client that used to do it, she used to say like, I don't want to be part of the gen pop. She was like, I need to be like in segregation. So she wanted hers like completely separate to like the general population. So and that was just, she's like, it's not that I don't trust you. It's just, I really want to just leave knowing that it's only mine. And yeah, it was never a problem. And then when they would start to get like, the buffers and that would need replacing, it was just part of the agreement that she would pay an extra $5 or whatever it was to replenish her kit. So yeah, it wasn't a problem and it made her feel good. And yeah, it was easy as. So it's definitely something you can offer.
And you don't want to do it for anyone that's like a one-off, unless you factored into your price. But like, you could do it, say, if somebody prepays a bundle of 5 appointments, they get an individual client pack included in the price, because now you know that they're going to be a regular for at least 5 appointments. Or you can do it as an add-on where you put a sign up, or you offer at the first appointment, like, just so you know, this is something I offer. It costs an extra $20. It does have to live here, like, blah, blah, blah. And then also, if someone had, like, say, for example, you have a client and something happens and they have, like, say, for example, sometimes you'll get people turn up with verrucas and warts. And personally, I don't want to work on people that have that because they're so contagious. And I'm wearing gloves and stuff, but for me, it's just, I'm like, no, once that's treated, we can work with that. But if you had someone who, like, for example, has an issue with a recurring issue like that, and they come to you and it's all clean and good, I might say to them, cool, I'm so happy to work on you, but I would require you to be part of having an individual client pack for me to feel comfortable working on you. So there's like just a few scenarios where it would fit in that you might get someone onto an individual client pack.
Yeah, totally. Or if that person that comes and they're only a one-off, then you just give them the files and buffers to take away with them. And, like if you get a snag, use this file, it's really good quality. Yeah, then they're at least using like decent quality file.
Yeah, anytime that it's ready to be thrown out, I'll always offer to give it to them, as long as like I can disinfect it first, then, because I don't want to be responsible for bugs leaving, but if I can disinfect it first, I'm like, you can have it. We should also specify that if you're doing wet pedicures, like pretty much all we're talking about at the moment is manicures, but if you're doing wet pedicures with a spa, there's so many extra regulations, and the way to clean a pedicure like spa system will, like, when you purchase that spa system, there should be super detailed instructions on how to keep that specific system safe and clean. But one thing to be aware of is that standard like disinfectants and detergents aren't usually enough for pedicure equipment. You need a chelating surfactant detergent, because a lot of the pedicure products that we use leave residue, and then hard water, which has calcium and magnesium ions in it, which some places have hard water, that makes things worse because those minerals reduce the effectiveness of those disinfectants that we talked about before. And it can also sometimes leave films that normal cleaners can't remove. So like altogether, it's not about the fact that it's toes. Like, yes, feet are gross. Yes, feet have like germs and stuff, but so do fingers. Like, you're touching so many gross things with your hands. The issue with trying to be extra careful with pedicures has a lot to do with the fact that the products you're using and the introduction of water to the service makes things harder to keep clean. So yeah, just, we won't go into it in detail, but definitely make sure you're using the right product and following the right instructions if you introduce water into a service. Hey guys, Future Penny here again. Just a super quick interruption to let you know that if you head to monaco.ac.nz/subscribe, not only can you sign up to our weekly newsletter, but you'll also get a free video lesson from our course, The Art of Pigments. That's monaco.ac.nz/subscribe. All right, Mel, professional scientist, talk us through blood or bodily fluid spills.
Yeah, so obviously with this, we have a process in place that we want to follow for our protection and also our clients. If they get nipped in some way, caught by the file, or there's obviously a step process that you want to take for safety. So your first step, you want to clean it with antiseptic, so even just like a Savlon or anything, just a teeny weeny little bit, just to make it nice and clean and kill any like surface bugs. Immediately get rid of those so they can't fester in there and make it worse. Apply a bandage and then discontinue work on that nail for the rest of the appointment. So yeah, because you don't want to just keep going and make it worse. Like if your client goes, oh, and there's a little bit of blood there, then that's it, service over for that nail. And most people will be pretty understanding about it. And if they're not, once you sort of explain why, then they kind of understand. But the good way to remember when to cease like work on a nail is PPI. So that stands for pain, pus, or inflammation. So if a nail has any of those three, then you can't work on that nail anymore. You can let them know that they're welcome to come back in a few days when it's like healed over, not sore or anything like that. And then you can finish off that service for them, or but it's just, if anyone messages you or they come in and they go, oh, I've got this little bit of like swelling on the side here and it's really sore though, like that's your pain. So that's your signal to be like, I can't actually work on that today until that's like resolved itself. But yeah, that's an easy way to remember it, PPI. So if you're ever in doubt, think, are they in pain? Is there any pus? Is there any inflammation? So yeah, that's how we can deal with it. Do you guys want to talk about what you would do after you have accidentally like cut someone, or how would you deal with like your tools or your single-use items and stuff like that?
Yeah, so if I've had a blood spill, anything that's disposable, I would want to immediately throw it out. And with blood and like bodily fluids, since they are also an infection risk, you'd want to do that straight away. Double bag them and put them in a closed outdoor bin or biohazard container. But then for porous multi-use items, um, you would also want to double bag them and dispose of them immediately, and not reuse them.
So those are the things that, like, you've got your single-use stuff that you were disposing of anyway, but now you're disposing of it now. But then you've got your multi-use porous stuff that you would have disinfected, but now we're not taking any risks.
I have a question about that. What about towels?
What do you reckon, Mel?
I personally would just biff it.
Same.
I mean, you could probably like bleach solution it and all that stuff, but who can be bothered with that? I just add it to the double bag stuff and get rid of it.
For me, it's not worth the risk. Like, I've had a client who was a regular of mine for nearly a decade, who then came to me in tears to tell me she'd been diagnosed HIV positive, and she was so stressed because, like, in that time, we'd been holding hands for an hour a fortnight. But she had, so when they traced back how she could have got it, she had most likely had it for about 5 years. So it's not like she had just caught it and then suddenly knew and told me. Like, that's not really how all bloodborne illnesses and diseases work. But the thing is that because I know I'm really strict, I wasn't panicked. Like, I was like, no, it'll be fine, because I've never put myself in a situation where that could have contaminated me. Like, I'm not stressed. And she thought I'd be so upset. And I was like, no, it's never been an issue. So yeah, but that's because of things like just getting rid of towels and not taking that risk. And then if you have, so that's the porous tools. So if you were going to disinfect it, too bad, so sad, off it goes. But the non-porous stuff, so like a cuticle pusher, other stainless steel tools, you can still clean and disinfect. But in that situation, absolutely, like immersion, like the best possible methods that you can. And if you have the ability to, like, you shouldn't really need to dispose of them. They are designed to be disinfected, but like, I mean, you could. But for me, anything that's non-porous, the stainless steel, ceramic, glass, if that was an thing, like anything like that, it's getting immersed, and also not reused for the rest of the service. Which of you guys, do you guys wear gloves?
I do.
I don't, but I need to start.
You're new, we'll let you off. I hate wearing gloves, like despise it, because I feel like I can't feel, like I almost feel like I can't see if I have gloves on. But also from years of not wearing them, I now have overexposure dermatitis, so now I don't have a choice. And so I would highly recommend that beyond sanitization and safety, either way, wear your gloves, people. Like, I really only started wearing them over, like, because I started reacting.
I think wearing gloves is kind of interesting because like the main reason I'm doing it is for myself. It's like for my own protection. Um, but also I do think that clients can see it as like professional. Um, like part of the reason I started doing it was because I film a lot of my work to put on reels. And so I really wanted to start wearing gloves in all my videos that I was doing, not just because of overexposure, but because of like the professionalism like side of it, and also because it means that I don't have to have perfect nails all the time if I'm filming things.
Definite perk.
Quite handy.
I have had clients when I go to put gloves on to do their toes be like, oh, yeah, I do it too. My feet are gross, or like make comments and think that I'm putting gloves on just because of them. And I'm like, I wear gloves every time I do your hands too, right? And they've literally just never noticed, but they're like self-conscious about their feet. So then they think that that's like the first time I've ever done it. I've had that happen a few times. Mel, you're a gloves person, eh?
Yeah, I wear gloves every single time and a mask.
That's where I was going. I was like, I'm pretty sure you're a mask person too. I cannot do the mask. I have a intense desktop dust extractor, but I feel like I cannot breathe when I have a mask on.
Yeah, so I don't have a dust extractor, but I just got used to it because when I was finishing my studies, COVID came along and we had to wear gloves and masks. So now I feel weird not wearing gloves. I feel like I'm holding their hands like interlaced. That's what it feels like if I don't have a glove on. It feels too touchy, but because I'm so used to it. And I don't have a dust extractor, as we probably all know by now. So I wear a mask usually just for the removal cuticle side of it, and then sometimes I'll take it off. Otherwise, sometimes I don't. I'm just really used to it, and I don't find it uncomfortable or anything. So, yeah, I just am so used to it now. It's normal for me. Betty's eating, but yeah, it's not. And same thing, like either my nails are undone or they're really nicely done, and I don't want to get like acetone on them or file them by mistake. But I've never had any sort of like allergies or overexposure or anything so far. It's more of just a habit now for me, I think.
And I should say as well, like wearing a mask is for sure best practice. It's just something that I make a personal choice that I would rather take the risk of not wearing a mask. And if I'm sick or whatever, I just don't work. So I'm not like protecting a client from my illness because I don't work anyway. I have too many elderly clients to take that risk.
Yeah, it's not really like a sickness thing for me either, really. It's just a habit, I think. And I don't know if it makes the clients feel more comfortable. Some people, I think it makes them a little more uncomfortable because they're like, oh, but why are you wearing a mask? Like, I'm not sick. And I'm like, well, neither. And then they're like, oh.
Or they think that if you're wearing a mask, it must mean the products are dangerous.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, the products aren't dangerous if they're used safely. Like it's the same thing as like, well, we've said lots of times, like when people talk about nasty chemicals or chemicals being like bad for you and stuff, and we always say water is a chemical. You can be overexposed to water as well. If you put your head in a bucket of water for 10 minutes, you will die because you were overexposed. Your lung capacity had an overexposure of water. So when we talk about ventilation and how important it is in masks and gloves and stuff, it's not because what we're using is inherently dangerous, like you can look at it and then you suddenly have a reaction. It's that it has a safe method of usage, so we are following the safe method of usage so it's not dangerous and we don't become overexposed, like by having gloves and having like being really careful with your airspace. So a combination that works for you of masks and extraction fans in your desk or dust extractions on top of your desk, or you can get window or ceiling mounted extractor fans. You generally need some input of fresh air to help all of that work to its best ability as well. Even stuff like having a rubbish bin with a lid so that you're putting stuff that has vapors on it straight into a bin and then not having them escape into the room. Even stuff like getting good at acrylics so that your monomer isn't out for an extended period of time. Like, it's not about being scared of these products. It's about like, if you wouldn't, you know how to be safe around water and you don't judge people that only hold their head under the water for as long as they can. But so when we take precautions to make sure we're being safe, it's the same thing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just about, it's like, when you get into a car, you could have a car crash. So you put your seatbelt on, right? You don't go, oh, I'm never driving anywhere. You just manage the risk and try and take care of yourself. So yeah, it's things like when you've finished your acrylic application, you close up your monomer and you get rid of any excess monomer and put your tissue in the bin and close the bin. And yeah, same as when you do backfill, you get rid of all the dust and then carry on. Like,
I think a big part of it is like just being prepared, like having like I have little Ziplocs like near my desk, like just in case of needing to double bag things, or like knowing that you have like a bin that's going to help you manage the vapors, and then things like having an septic actually on hand, and having like band-aids in case you do have a blood spill. Just knowing that you're prepared for those things going wrong, I think is really helpful in your confidence. But also, like you need that. It's an area with nails where you do need to be prepared.
yeah, for sure. Because I think just when you said that, I was like, yeah, true. Because in this space here, I haven't really been doing clients here very much. So I don't have any of that stuff organized. So if someone came in and I accidentally cut them, I'd have to like run in the kitchen, find the first aid kit. Probably there's no plasters in there because the kids have taken them for their minute paper cuts and put 15 on. So probably actually haven't got any. So then I'd have to go out to the car like, that's not going to give people much confidence in me that I can handle their little cut when I'm like, running around trying to find a blimmin' plaster. Then it's probably going to be a SpongeBob one or something like, jeez.
And like, I'll say as well that I don't like cleaning, and sanitization and disinfection was not enforced to the same level in my training nearly 2 decades ago as we enforce it now. So I have habits from back then that I really have to force myself to be like, no, I need to have like the standards I know are important now. But so my point was that I factored into my pricing when I did the how to set your prices calculator from our module, because I do it regularly. But when I factored in the cost of a cleaner, so even if like in summer, if I have heaps of money and I feel like I'm balling, I'll get her to do my whole house. But no matter what, it is factored into my salon expenses that I have a person who comes and deep cleans the salon once a week, so that anything where I've got a little bit lazy with dust or whatever, I know that's my downfall. So I've priced in a way around it so I can't possibly drop that standard.
Yeah, that's smart. And it's also like that's another kind of way to be prepared, is like right from kind of like your admin pricing kind of place, because this stuff, like the money for it doesn't come from nowhere. You do need to factor it into your pricing so that you can guarantee it for every client.
And like if I was only doing 1 or 2 people a week, I would not be getting the cleaner monthly. Like between Lily and I, we're in the nail cabin for quite a number of hours each week. Like you could realistically get her in twice a week and it would be better. But once is what I've got factored into my pricing, so we just maintain it in between. Penny from the future here, reminding you to sign up for our free 5-day nail tech launchpad. It's the perfect, no pressure way to dip your toes in and see if nail tech life is right for you. monaco.ac.nz/launchpad. Alrighty, so our last little thing before we wrap this episode up, I'm just going to run through like a little self-audit for listeners, but also those of you here with me, I want you to think about these things and how they apply to your space, because we're in different stages of learning / not taking, like how Mel was just saying, like she'd have to run around for a band-aid. So if you're listening to this, head into your salon space and audit yourself. This first one is kind of gross, but so after your next client, ask yourself, are there any nail clippings, dust or debris on the floor or furniture? Which right now I can tell you there is not, but I do need to empty my filter of my dust extractor. Are the bathrooms clean with liquid soap and clean towels? Irrelevant for me because I don't have a client bathroom. Are your files free from dust, tears, and cracks? Anyone, be honest. If your files have a little tear in them, that's when mine comes inside and becomes my file.
I was just going to say that, yeah, the one beside me that I was just using on my nails before is like hideous looking, but it's just an old retired one that's come out here to pasture kind of a deal.
Yeah, I have one sitting in front of me right now, one on the coffee table, one on my headboard, and one in the jar of pens in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Are any of your products unlabeled?
I try to keep mine in like the original container. I try to get the small version I pick up first, and then I get the biggest version afterwards, and then I refill.
I do the same thing.
Perfect. So I just had the little plastic like push top pumpy type of ones, but I just used a label maker to label it. I actually threw them out after Summit because the acetone just got all over it and ruined the labels. So I was just like,
Yeah.
oh well, throw them out and I'll just get some new ones. And
Are any of your spare files stored somewhere clean and dry? I don't have spares. I'm waiting for a delivery that should arrive this afternoon.
mine just used to live in just the bottom drawer of my drawers right next to me, just in a little, wasn't a container, but just like a little open sort of thingy. And they just lived in there until they made their graduation to the actual containers.
Yeah, I've got a drawer for mine too.
I feel like Kaylee's sitting there as a newer student being like, shit.
Yeah, I'm in a very different situation because I travel to my clients. I have like a breathable tackle box that I put my gear in. I don't have heaps of files yet, which is something I need to bite the bullet and buy more of.
It's such a boring thing to spend money on.
Yeah, I would like give you another bottle of polish, but so I travel around with my tackle box. I keep all of my clean equipment in there. When I have dirtied a file, I then move it into like a fabric kind of like, you know, those like dollar store cross stitch fabric pencil cases. And then I just keep it in that until I take it home and then sanitize, disinfect, and then the clean tools go back.
Perfect.
All right, so if you think about your last client, did you check them for visible infections? Did you ask them to wash their hands and or feet? And did you wash your hands before and after the service?
I'm a yes for this one, but I do have a kind of random question.
Love that.
So spray sanitizer, you'd use that before a service. If you're wearing gloves, do you spray before you put the gloves on or after, or both?
Me, I used to I would put my gloves on like when the client comes in and they're getting like settled, like putting their bag down, their keys down, that's when I would put my gloves on. And then I would sanitize them and do all of that. So we do have like a bathroom just down the hall, but usually I don't get them to wash their hands. If I knew they were coming and I could see that they needed like their hands wiped, I would just grab a towel out of the warmer and just give their hands a little bit of a wipe that way, and then sanitize after that.
Yeah, pretty much samesies. And with the asking clients to wash their hands and or feet, I don't, because I don't have a basin in my space, but I have hot towels, so I'll use the hot towel and then I'll sanitize after that, and then my gloves are on for that whole time anyway. Okay, still in the audit. So for the listeners, did you cause any skin or nail damage? Can you clearly explain how you clean and disinfect your files, tools, and foot spa, which we already know from the last hour of conversation that we do? Can you produce your pedicure cleaning log if needed? So that's if you do wet pedicures. Okay, is there a strong chemical smell in your salon or space?
Not usually, no.
People always comment on how mine doesn't smell until a man walks in. Like if someone's husband walks in to pass them a coffee he got from across the road or something, like a man walking into the space, it'll smell so good and not like chemicals at all. And any man walking in will be like, oh, it stinks in here. Guaranteed.
Get out, Roger. Why? I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. And sometimes I swear it's literally just like the diffuser. Like it's not even,
So it's not like stinky as in like poo smell. It's like stinky as like perfumey smell.
yeah, well, they
Ah,
generally they'll say something about chemicals. I feel like it's half just like subconsciously in their brain that they're expecting it to smell like chemicals, so any smell they associate with like a non-standard salon. I don't know.
men are funny. Who knows? But they can smell like a perfume and go, ooh, that stinks.
Yeah, true. Okay, last couple of things is your qualification visible to clients?
Yep. What about you, Moose? Where's yours?
Mine is currently displayed on my like bookshelf where I keep products and things.
Okay,
So it's like in the salon where people can
nice.
have a look at it if they want to.
Perfect. And how about you, Kelly? Because you have your certificate, right?
I actually need to order mine. This
Oh,
reminded me that
jail straight to.
I'm excited about that now. I just realized.
Yeah. Have you thought about where you would put it?
Oh, not really at the moment. I'm kind of, because I've got no space to work out of, I'm going over to people's places to do my nails.
Yeah. How do you get around that, Penny? If you're like a mobile tech, is it just about like social media display instead of in person or?
I would either make it a pinned part of my social media, or you could also, like, it depends on your avatar and your branding and like your vibe and stuff. But there's totally a scenario where someone has like a little portable setup that when they go mobile, they have like a little thing of flowers and a little candle and a little thing for their certificate, and like they make someone's home feel like a salon before they get started.
Yeah, cute.
And you could, if you don't want to put your big like A4 certificate out on the table next to you, like if you wanted to do like a little cute salon setup, you can always take a photo of your certificate, shrink it down smaller so it's like a little, like, you know how you can get those tiny little easels with tiny little art? Like you could do a little mini version of your certificate and like a couple of nail art samples. Like you can make a cute little display for mobile services.
Ah, imagine if someone came to your house and pulled out like a little easel with like a little mini qualification.
I would love that if it had like
Same.
a couple of little like cute decorations and things. I'd be like, I love that. How bougie.
I would be like, oh my gosh.
All right. Any final thoughts that have popped in your head while we've been nattering?
Nettery net. Yeppa yeppa.
Hopefully, it's just a more casual, digestible way of talking about a very boring topic.
Yeah. And then it's not hard to do it well, you know? As boring as it can be. Well, some of us find it interesting, but
It's interesting, but it's hard to learn if you've been drawn to a creative career path. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the best theory learner. Like, even with chemistry, I love chemistry, but I failed it in school because my teacher wasn't a good teacher. It was only when I started understanding it in relation to nails and therefore, like, it was relevant to me and problem solving and became like a puzzle, then it became interesting to me.
yeah, interesting, eh? Where chemistry was the paper that I definitely had to redo like 3 times, I think, because I just couldn't grasp it. Where everything else was, I don't know, interesting, hey?
Yeah. Alrighty, with that done and dusted, before you disappear, like our page or follow the podcast so that you don't miss the next episode. We'll be back next week, and I'm going to chuck to you again, Mel, because Pat's sick. What are we covering next week?
Next week, we're going to be chatting to some peeps who participated in the NZ nail comps. So not the summit one, the actual comps.
And just a reminder before we finish up to use my code Kaylee Rose, that's CALEY Rose, for 10% off all courses. I get a kickback from these enrollments, and they're how we support the production of the podcast.
Woohoo! Nice. And Moose, you also have one now too.
And my code is MumuCat.
Perfect. And mine is Mel, as you guys all know, but go support our newbies and use their code if you're going to enroll with us.
And until next week, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching Monaco Nail Academy or follow our salons. Mine is Hard Lacquer NZ.
Mine is Crafting a Healthy Mel.
Mine is MumuCat Nails.
And mine is Kaylee Rose Nails.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.